Hey, you guys, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. This is Dr. Lindsey Clancey and Wendy Zoog, and you're joining me. I'm Stephanie Mohr, and thank you so much for coming along for this talk. We're going to talk about detox today. And before we get started, I would like to tell you a little bit about Dr. Lindsey and Wendy. Lindsey, is that okay if I call you Dr.
Yes.
Lindsey?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Dr. Lindsey is a board-certified internal medicine physician who practices functional medicine. She began her career treating patients for acute illness in the hospital for over 10 years and now specializes in functional medicine to treat chronic disease and underlying causes. She is passionate about optimizing gut health, nutrition, and detoxification pathways to reverse or improve drivers or root causes of chronic disease. Earlier this year, she founded her practice called RC Functional MD to do just that. So, Lindsey, congratulations on opening your new business and making that giant shift from the hospital to your private practice.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And at some point, Lindsey, I want to hear a little bit more about how you made that shift from being a hospitalist to kind of doing this hybrid thing that you're doing now, and what was that whole driving force for that?
Absolutely.
We're fascinated by that. So by the way, everybody, Lindsey and Wendy and I are longtime friends, and we exercise together, we do things together, we collaborate on business projects, and these are two very incredibly important women in my life. And I've learned so much from both of them, and that's what really motivated me to get us all three together. I really just want to continue learning from you both, and I love how it all comes together with the three of us, and then share it with the world, right? It's a message that we can all benefit from, and that we can all, our health and our wellness is so incredibly important, and these times call for this work, and the three of us and the work that we're doing, and you're going to learn more about that as we go. But the work that we're doing, they complement each other so beautifully, and we need all three of these practices in our life so that we can really thrive and feel radiant from the inside out and really go from surviving to thriving for sure. Okay, so let me tell you about Wendy here. Wendy is a yogini, a fitness enthusiast, a Lululemon Legacy ambassador, and the founder of KALOS Experience. She has joyfully practiced yoga for over 2 decades and views body movement as an art. A registered nurse, a certified yoga teacher, a breathing coach, a music junkie, that's my favorite, and not my favorite, but a highlight. And self-proclaimed anatomy nerd, Wendy understands the importance of body limitations and proper alignment. Having undergone bilateral hip replacements at the age of 40, oh my God, she taught herself how to balance her own body and use physical alignment to increase her power and strength as an athlete and a teacher. She believes that every body has their own unique formula for exercise, nutrition, work, and play. So all of these, this is all the stuff that we want to talk about today, and two really amazing women. I'm so excited. A quick little thing about me. I have been a chef my whole life. I have had a catering business. I've worked in the restaurant business. And somewhere in my 40s, a little over 10 to 15 years ago, I thought that there has to be a way for food and exercise and lifestyle and stress management to come together. Specifically, how can food heal our bodies and help us to manage everything that we're doing, because I was breaking in half. So in 2010, 2011, I went to Ayurveda school and got my holistic health consultant practitioner in Ayurveda. And so I've spent really the last 10 to 15 years trying to merge the cooking, the Ayurveda, the yoga, stress management, and still, manage my family and a busy household and all that. So my focus is heavily on food, just because of, food and stress management, because I feel like those are very good movers in the work that we're trying to do in taking care of ourselves and self-care. Okay. All three of us have very busy lives and kids and families and homes and spouses. And I want you I want our listeners to know that you can absolutely take care of yourself despite this lifestyle and despite the busyness. And we just have to keep finding a way to balance. So today we are specifically talking about detox and trying to figure out how to detox really the different parts of our life that aren't serving us. So we're going to talk today about food. We're going to talk about emotional detox, about your exercise routine, and all of these things are going to come up because detox is not only about doing a cleanse or about changing your eating habits, about really doing everything. So I would like to start out with our first question by Wendy. Why don't you get us kicked off? I'd like to hear what your thought is about detox and when you feel like you need it, and perhaps even an experience that you've had lately that we're giving you, signals that something's got to shift here.
Okay. Well, when I think of what a detox is, I personally believe that it's an opportunity to give your body space, love, and time to process and to heal. It's been overworked, whether it's through physical stuff, nutrition, emotional stuff. It's an opportunity to clean it, rid it of the toxins, and allow more opportunity just to calm itself down so that it has room and space and, more importantly, love to heal. I sense when I need a detox, it actually doesn't come up all too often, and for some reason we tend to talk about it a lot in January because it's kind of the fresh part of the year. But I've been noticing as I'm getting older that oftentimes it tends to call me. My body's calling for a detox, change of the seasons oftentimes, and I think right now with the holidays, well, I know with the holidays, kind of some of the overload with family, work, and other, friendship connections, all that, being stressed and overworked is happening to me right now. So that was a long answer to your question. I would say seasonally and sometimes with holidays, most often this time of year. What I sense when I know I need it is when my body starts to feel sticky and heavy. And that is in combination, not just emotionally, but also physically. I tend to ache more in my body, my joints. I tend to wake up with really bad TMJ because I'm probably stressed. I know that's what causes it. And just yesterday, as a matter of fact, I kind of lost my wheels fell off my body yesterday because I think I hit a wall and it was like Mayday, red flag alert. I needed to take a break. And what I know personally for me, for detoxing, sometimes just means to calm the system down with the physical, not commit to as many classes each week, not to commit to so many social events, and to just really start drawing lines in my calendar and take better care of myself from a physical standpoint.
Nice. Wonderful. So, one thing that you say there is sometimes detox means doing less instead of doing more.
Yeah.
And sometimes not making, sometimes we don't need to make a big giant change to add something, but we need to really reduce friction and take it away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really quick before we go on, you mentioned the achy joints and your jaw hurting, and for me it's puffy eyes, and I don't recover from my workouts as quickly. But it makes me think that I need to do more workout. Like I need to do more workouts and I need to move my body more to feel better, but then I don't recover as quickly. Do you think that's a sign that we need to detox a little bit and bring it down?
Most definitely. Most definitely. If you're sensing that physically after, exercise, in order to make muscle, believe it or not, when you're working out, you're really breaking it down. But in order to grow the muscle and to make it, you have to give it a rest. You have to let it rebuild itself. So if you're not able to recover and you're continually achy and you're not feeling good, you may feel good physically after a workout, like the next day. If you're not, if you're still feeling achy or whatever, that's your body's signal of saying, I'm inflamed. I need a little break. Listen to that. because your body is smart and it's going to give you the signals it needs. So absolutely.
Yeah. And I think sometimes we need to look at food, maybe. Like for me, I know it's food. You mentioned the holidays. If I have gone on a track of, Thanksgiving week, eating things that I'm not normally eating or drinking more than I would normally drink, I can really feel it in my body. And I know that I need to move it through and get it going. But I'm also having, aches and pains. And so trying to find the right level of exercise so that it's not hurting me more, but still getting my lymphatic system moving. And
Right.
yeah, that's one of the plugs I always give to KALOS, because I feel like KALOS is such a great balance at doing that.
Thank you. Yeah. And I do think that most definitely, there's a formula for everybody. What works for me may not work for you. Same goes with nutrition. We're all wired so differently, but I do think the more we're in tune with our body. I mean, there's a difference of just being lazy and not feeling like exercising. And there's a difference of when you're really physically you're achy.
Right.
So you got to I can't, as a teacher, feel that in your body. But I think the more that we become aware of our own bodies and what we're sensing, listen to those signals, because again, it's powerful stuff. And what you don't want to do, and I call it the push through. And I will often tell my husband, I'm pushing through. And what that means is my body's going, halt, stop. And I'm like breaking through the brick wall going, no, I'm going to keep on going. And that is and now it's caught up with me. So now it's like crumble.
Yeah. Or we'll say just one more, I just have to make it through one more day, or I just have to make it to this weekend,
Right.
And we kind of sabotage ourselves on the way there too, instead of, finding how can we do the self-care amidst the chaos. We kind of just keep burning the candle at the end. So, yeah. Okay, Dr. Lindsey, I would like to ask you kind of the same question. Like, what does detox mean to you? And when do you know you're going to have it? And perhaps share an experience with us that you felt this in your own body and what you did about it.
Yeah. Well, I come at it from a little bit of a medical perspective, like actually thinking about what the liver's doing, how we're getting rid of all of these toxins, and how those systems can get overloaded. But when I first kind of started into functional medicine, I didn't honestly know all of this stuff. So, my first experience actually discovering functional medicine was when I became kind of overburdened with a number of things in my life. And I was suffering from a lot of symptoms of, toxic burden. So, I was exhausted all the time. I was taking naps, when I should have been, available for my family or enjoying my family, enjoying my life. I had, acne. I had funny skin rashes that, weren't, like easily cover-upable or like remediated. And then, I had a number of things happen. And one thing that happened was I developed a chronic illness or an illness called eosinophilic esophagitis, which was basically an allergic reaction in my esophagus. And the way that I managed it was through, a lot of nutrition and supplementation, but so much of it was my lifestyle change. So I got a new job that wasn't so stressful. I wasn't working all night. I wasn't burning the candle at both ends. I started doing KALOS. I did a lot of things kind of all at once. I figured out I was sensitive to certain foods and cut those out. I cleaned up my, all my personal care products. I cleaned up my, home of, commonly toxic things, like including household and, cleaning products, and even the laundry detergent that I use. So I did all these things sort of simultaneously, and I felt so much better. I also started using a sauna fairly, frequently. And now looking back on it, I was detoxing. So I was just helping my body, or my body's, detox mechanism function well. I didn't do that. I was just kind of supporting my body so it could do that. And we can talk a lot more about how that works and what toxins are and how they affect your body. But essentially, that's sort of how I cleaned everything up and helped myself. And then when I don't feel well, so I get brain fog, I'll start getting anxious or scattered. And it's kind of a sign that I need to detox. Sometimes I'll notice my body odor will change, and that's a telltale sign. And then rashes. I always get rashes. I show everything on my skin. So if I have a rash, I mean, I was struggling with one a couple weeks back that I could not, it was just an itchy rash. And I cleaned up my gut a little bit and did some detox, and it went away, and I'm fine now. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So first of all, we're going to have to do another talk about home products in the home.
Yeah.
Because that's a really big one, and what that means as an endocrine disruptor, and that's on the list for sure. And we can talk about this somewhere along the way here, but I wanted to ask, people think about detox as, is it a 7-day thing, a 21-day thing, a 40-day thing? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? Is it 1 month? So Wendy, you were saying, I just knew that I needed a break and I need to kind of shut it down for a little bit. And so sometimes even 24 hours of rest will do wonders. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we need, 21 to 40 days of really clean eating and clean lifestyle, and somehow figuring out how to insert that into our busy life. So Lindsey, do you feel like when it's really, how do you determine what you're going to do? Do you set like a goal of so many days, or how do you go about it?
Okay. So when I personally or with a patient, I'll just kind of interchange them. So in general, everybody has like a different size bucket on how much toxin, toxic burden they can handle. And I think the main qualifiers on, basically you start having symptoms when that bucket starts overflowing. And all those people that can, have huge buckets and they can, drink and eat and do whatever they want, and they're fine and they have beautiful skin and are skinny and that's vibrant and tons of energy.
That's kind of like the Ayurvedic constitution. Like some people have certain combinations in their constitution that they can either handle a lot or they can handle very little. I just wanted to throw that in there because I love that you described it that way, because that's a very ancient way of looking at why does she get to eat and drink whatever she wants and I can't do any of that. So
and we also think about, you think about teenagers or 20-year-olds doing that. They're constantly staying out all night, able to do it 2 more nights in a row, still look beautiful, skinny, not, gaining a pound. And I really do feel like at a certain point in our lives, and a lot of times it happens in our 40s, our 50s, we start to overflow our toxic burden capacity. And so in those periods of time when you really haven't had a chance to just kind of reset that, then it probably will take a little bit longer. Mm-hmm. So, I always say you've got to start with the gut, because if you haven't healed your gut, then you're going to have a horrible time detoxing. First of all, if you have leaky gut, you're going to allow the toxins to come in more readily. And so you're actually absorbing a lot more toxins. So healing the gut and kind of, helping your body have some sort of protection against the toxins that you're trying to get rid of is an important first step. And then I think, alongside the gut healing is a really clean anti-inflammatory diet that doesn't introduce a lot of toxic burden. And then also optimizing your liver detox. So there's a few different phases that toxins have to be processed through in your liver, and they're dependent on very specific nutrients. And so I think that's also like touching on the your ability to recover from a workout. So we use a ton of amino acids in our detoxification process, and amino acids are the building blocks for muscle. And so if we're depleting our stores of amino acids available to detox, all these toxins, then we're also going to diminish our ability to build the muscle and recover from those workouts. So I think that's probably a direct correlation between, difficulty recovering from workouts and having an increased toxic burden.
Yeah. Wendy, could you touch on that with the movement piece and how the movement and the KALOS and kind of the interval movement, how that is beneficial to your liver and detoxing, or maybe it's even a lymphatic conversation, but can you touch on how exercise maybe contributes to helping our system work more efficiently?
Sure. So first and foremost, anytime you exercise, and let me also say this, that exercising doesn't necessarily need to be like a 10-mile run. It can be gardening, it can be raking leaves, it can be carrying laundry up 2 flights of stairs and folding it, and movement in general. So anytime that you can increase blood circulation, you're decreasing the amount of stress on your liver, and you're increasing the energy levels that basically will help prevent weight gain. I don't talk a lot about weight very often in my classes, but what I do believe is that movement, like I just said, exercise movement is going to increase heart rate. It's going to get the blood circulating. It's also going to impact movement in your lymphatic system. So that feeling, and I keep on referencing the sticky, because I'm kind of sticky today, and not going into the sciencey. Lindsey can explain that in depth, I know, but basically it's a filtration system that if the blood's not pumping, if the energy levels aren't increased, the breath rate isn't increased, you're not moving, things become stagnant. And so think about kind of like, I always tell people, exercising is like blowing out the cobwebs that can create that congestion, that heavy feeling. And by allowing more space and ability to kind of trying to wrap my arms around how best to explain this, basically you're cleaning out your attic every time. You're getting all the dust, all the cobwebs out, allowing for muscles to build, to grow, for blood flow, for detox, and for lymphatic, the lymph nodes to be doing what they're doing. I don't know if that was a very clear answer.
Yes, no, absolutely. And in fact, I just want to even read some of your notes that you sent me because
Sure.
this is exactly what you just said. But exercise increases your heart rate, promotes blood circulation, and increases sweat production. All factors that promote the release of toxins. The more blood that is circulated through the body, the easier it is for the liver and the lymph nodes to do their job. Exactly. And I think to your point, I think we often think that we're exercising for weight loss.
Yeah.
And we're exercising because we think we have to move our body for a certain amount, or maybe we're exercising with the idea that we're detoxing. But really, we need to move our body just to keep things pumping. Right. And, we have that move it or lose it, concept out there in the world. But I don't think that we think of the importance of our workout as far as circulation and lymph and cleansing our liver. But, like in Ayurveda, your liver is connected to your blood, connected to your rasa, connected to your pitta, your transformation. Everything has to run through your liver, and your circulation is, bringing the blood to your liver. But if you don't have your lymph system moving, it's hard to access the toxins to move them out of your body, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it just all is so cool how it all goes together.
And I will say too, I feel like oftentimes people, if you can reframe in your mind about exercise not being a burden, or the reason why you're doing is to make up for, the Ben and Jerry's you ate the night before, or the 6 glasses of wine, which you're going to feel like shit anyway when you wake up. It's just inevitable. That's just what your body's going to do because of all the sugars in it. Mm-hmm. But to think of it more as something enjoyable and as a lifestyle. To me, it's about a lifestyle. You know that feeling, again, when you know your body and you feel, don't penalize yourself with exercise. Make it more of an enjoyable process, something that you look forward to.
Yes, absolutely. And that the breath, mind, body, all of that goes together is so important in your workout. I always tell people it has to be something that you love and that you enjoy. And if I always see people running on the street, and I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 of those people running have an angst look on their face. And I just think they're, like, I'm going to run and I got to run faster and it's got to hurt to count, and I got to go 10 miles or I got to, or even like 1 to 3 miles, but they got to go as fast as possible. And they just have this angst on their face. And I just think, man, I wonder if they're enjoying that. I mean, maybe they are, but it looks very stressful to me. And I used to run a lot. I did triathlons, I did marathons, I did 10K races a lot. And I loved it when I was doing it. And when I stopped loving it, I stopped. I mean, like, I don't run anymore. That's it. I couldn't handle that level. And I'm a super competitive person. And I just decided I got to go the other direction. And, and also I found yoga and then found KALOS and just decided that was better on my body as I got older. I would love to talk about something you just mentioned, Wendy, this whole concept of calories in and calories out. Mm-hmm. And we totally do that. We say, well, I had my 6 glasses of wine last night, or I had my pint of Ben and Jerry's. I got to work that off. I've had, I cook for people, and every now and then I do mostly healthy cooking food, as you guys know. But every now and then, if I do more of I call it a family meal, where it's maybe some fried chicken or mashed potatoes or something like that, every now and then I'll get someone email me and say, what am I going to have to do to work this off? And I'm like, oh man, that's not the point. It's like, just enjoy the food with your family and sit down and don't worry about that so much. Now, obviously, we're not eating fried chicken and mashed potatoes every single night. Then we would maybe talk about that. But Lindsey, can you hit on that a little bit, the calories in, calories out?
Well, I mean, I think a point that you just made was, having to work off a meal like that. The point is to get people to where they have metabolic flexibility so they can handle
Ooh, I love that word.
A discretion like that, or something that, they're not going to do all the time. So sometimes, you have to just get everything working optimally so then you can handle times like that. And sometimes it's not, in the beginning when you're just starting the work, it's probably not the time to have a bunch of meals like that. But eventually that's the goal, is you can go out, you can enjoy yourself, you can, have that meal that, you enjoy with your friends and everybody's having a good time and not worrying about it. Yeah. And then I think the other thing about calories in, calories out is, and exercise too, is that if you're going into an exercise kind of stressed out about not wanting to be there, dreading it, your cortisol is elevated and you are not going to efficiently burn any of that fat. You're actually going to store fat, and it's, not actually going to be beneficial to you. So to Wendy, to your point, you've got to find the thing that you love, and it's different for everybody. So, I mean, I love KALOS, I love Pilates, I love yoga, I love, Pilates is like my favorite because you can lay down and work out and just lay there.
Right.
But you still are getting strong. And I don't love running. I'm with you, Steph. I would be one of those people with the like tense facial expression on the street. Yeah. So, yeah.
Speaking of measuring, because we were talking about calories in and calories out. Wendy, what do you think? And there's no judgment here on anyone who does this, but I see so many people with the watches in the class, doing their workouts and measuring their calories burned and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't use one because I when I switched away from running and worrying about what my miles per minute were and stuff like that, now I just kind of show up, and I do not want to be interrupted at all. And I think people wear the watch because they want to measure their calories burned, but they also are getting text messages during their workout, and an email's popping up, and someone's calling, and they have to, they stop to decline it or whatever. Do you have a thought about that, Wendy? Like, do you think it's important to know how many calories you're burning in a workout, or what's your take? And again, like, no judgment. But when I cook healthy food for people, and Lindsey, you touched on this, we just focus on changing our intake. Like, we're eating more fruits and vegetables, we're less processed food, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. But okay, let me ask this question a different way. Because the whole measuring thing, I think, might be a personality thing, like something that works for them. So when they're having their watch during their workout, they want to know how many calories they burned. That might just be something that really works for them and motivates them. But back to the question is, do you find that it's important to know how many calories you burn during a workout?
Personally, no. I lost that probably 15 years ago. When I look at anything on a box, first of all, and if it's a box, I try not to eat a lot of things out of the box because that means it's highly processed. Yeah. But, I look more for fiber content, protein. I don't really, in fat. I don't look at calories. I've gotten so far removed from that I almost feel like I can't even relate. I mean, when people, if there are clients in my studio that are on their calorie watches, I'm not seeing it. Now, I personally don't like the iPhone watches because I get sensory overload just with the pinging of my text on my phone. I don't want to wear that on my body. I know personally my cortisol levels increase when I'm hearing those vibrations, those pings. It's not a lifestyle I personally can live. And I know that personally about myself. Does it matter? Calories in, calories out? Well, what's your goal? I think when it comes to sustainability, longevity, like what Lindsey said, there's going to be a time and a place where maybe you do need to hold yourself a little bit more accountable for your activity, or you were referencing in some capacity that, Linz. But I think that what I teach and preach and believe is that if you're constantly looking at the calories, trying to figure out how many you're burning and what you can eat afterwards, you're losing the whole lifestyle and long-term purpose of why you're doing it. You want instant gratification, kind of a fast fix. And so, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist. What I do know is this is your body and Lindsey, jump in here if you want to help me out with this, but I don't know if the proper terms, like your energy expenditure, how much you have in a week. Let's just say your body's used to burning, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many calories. I mean, I don't ever talk about calories. Right. What I do know is this, your body can survive on a certain amount. If you're getting too less of calories, then you start storing stuff, which a lot of people will come in and be like, I barely eat and I'm overweight. And that to me is like red flag. Your body's in protection mode. Your body can only handle so much. It can only expend so much. So for those people that are doing 2 and 3 classes a day that think that they're burning all their calories, your body then goes into this place and it says, I'm done. I can't, you've put me into a mode that I can't continue to burn and help you with this weight loss or anything. You just you peak at this point, and if you do more, you're basically doing a disservice to your body. And so when it comes to calories and stuff, and you get so into that in your head, personally, I just think it complicates what should be simple, what should be enjoyable. And if your end goal is, yes, I want to drop 10 pounds, then work with a nutritionist. Figure out what your formula is for your body. But to come into a class and be staring at your calories burned watch, to me, is a disservice in the fact that it's going to weigh on you here. It's almost like I don't use the word diet by choice. And I got rid of that a long time ago because that, in my head, immediately, it means that something's been removed that maybe I want. So I can't use that word. It's like, how am I going to fuel my body to feel my best? That's me personally. So calories in and diet, I try not to get into that headset because it can reframe the intention and the goal for what individuals want. And in my practice and what I teach and what I like the clients to believe is that you're doing this for a long term. This is for lifestyle and for feeling good. If you want to go and drop a bunch of weight, work with a nutritionist, implement different modalities of movement. I'm a huge advocate of that. But in a nutshell, no, I think they're not, I don't believe in it. I don't think it's a smart thing to say. I think it's like stepping on the scale in the morning. If you're 4 pounds overweight, you're going to have a shitty day. You're going to eat like crap, or you're going to starve yourself. It's a mental thing. So that's my stance on it, I guess.
And how accurate are they anyways? I can't imagine that they would even really accurately tell you how many. I personally use a wearable, but it's nothing that would ever talk to me during a class. Have you guys seen these? So,
Lindsey, you're so high tech.
Okay, so this is actually, it has like a computer on the inside, and I wear it all the time. I actually wear it when I sleep, and it tells me about my sleep quality. And it also gives me one metric. My favorite metric that it gives me is my heart rate variability. Ooh. Have you heard of heart rate variability?
Well, not measuring it in that way.
Yeah, so I've noticed patterns. So higher the better. It's just like your heart rate variability is specific to you, and you're essentially like how fast your heart typically beats. So I cannot compare my heart rate variability directly to somebody else's, but I can compare it to what it was yesterday or last week or 2 weeks ago. And I will tell you, when I'm more stressed, if I've had some drinks, if I've eaten too late at night, if I had too much sleep, if I'm overloaded in toxins, my heart rate variability plummets. And so it's actually like a biofeedback device that I love because it keeps me, I don't stress out about it. It's just that it makes me more aware of how my lifestyle actions are affecting my body. And so it's kind of an easier shift to make a better decision for my body that I know will help.
I love that. What is that device called? What is it?
It's called an Oura ring. Oura. It's amazing. And it also, there's a bunch of new things that it's starting to mark, but I just this week downloaded a new version, and it's checking my oxygen saturation at night too. Okay. So
that would be cool for people with like sleep apnea and stuff.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. To see if your whatever device you're using is effective, or if you need to get a test for sleep apnea or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, let's go down that track just a little bit here, because this is another thing that is affected by food, movement, and our health. So do you think the heart rate variability measurement, did you say like if you drinking, eating, or something like that, it tanks, like it goes down? Okay.
Yes. So
if that's low, do you think then that our lymph system isn't moving and our liver is not cleansing the same, so does that mean that our heart rate variability is low? Do you think that's affecting all of those systems of your body, basically? Is that the same?
Well, I do. It's actually, it's regulated by my favorite nerve, the vagus nerve.
Yes.
But
we're going to have to talk about that too.
Vagus nerve talk
sometime. But basically it is a marker of our parasympathetic activity, which is basically the commander of our heart rate variability. So if our sympathetic tone is higher, then we're going to have lower parasympathetic tone. And then beat to beat on our hearts, it's not going to be as varied, which is good. It's good to have a higher variability beat to beat. And so I think, that a lot of those things stress the system that we talked about. So that causes your sympathetic tone to be higher.
Okay,
The
real
other
quick.
thing that I
sorry.
wanted to bring up, just so Wendy or you can talk on it a little bit, is the other time I measure my heart rate variability directly with this ring is there in the app for the Aura Ring. They have breath work sessions, and it will tell me what happens to my heart rate variability during those breathwork sessions. And I will say it is by far the highest heart rate variability readings that I get are during those sessions.
Seriously. I may have to ask for an Aura ring for Christmas.
You need one. Yeah. So I
As
want
long
to
as
talk
it
about
doesn't
breath
bleed on
at some
your
point
finger.
too.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's so love that,
Yeah.
Lindsey. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So I think all three of us are familiar with that parasympathetic and sympathetic, but just quickly, Lindsey, review what that means.
Yeah.
Sympathetic.
So our adrenal glands are activated by stress. So actually, it starts with some kind of stress signal. It could be, something acute that you really need to respond to, like almost getting into a car accident. You really need, to be on alert, have, very intense concentration in that moment. And that would be like a normal, justified, stress, like time that you need that stress response. So your hypothalamus gets stimulated. It sends a messenger to your pituitary gland, which then sends a messenger to your adrenal gland to secrete cortisol and epinephrine, or adrenaline is what a lot of people call that, in response to stress. So that's how it's supposed to happen. What happens?
That's a sympathetic response.
That's sympathetic.
Sympathetic.
And then to calm everything down and to reset, the parasympathetic system needs to take over. And so, and the vagus nerve mediates that system. And so that's basically resetting everything, sending a different neurotransmitter to kind of calm everything down and, kind of reset the system. What happens a lot of times is when we're responding to psychological stress or a thought or something that just doesn't go away quickly. So that's something that, you're continually thinking about. That system just keeps going, and you have to intentionally or learn. I mean, I think the one of the best ways to treat that is to have some kind of intentional practice to get present. Breath work is great for that. And that will improve your parasympathetic system and then improve your heart rate variability that way.
I love it. I love it. So I have found for me that I was living in sympathetic mode for quite some time. And, when I was cooking and cooking a lot and had my catering business and had 3 children as babies, Lindsey, you would have killed me if we knew each other back then. In my 3rd pregnancy with Michael, in my 3rd trimester, I catered 3 weddings. I just was a crazy person, and I just thought I could do it all. And I still think I can do it all, but I'm a much, much more wiser and smarter now. But I really crashed my adrenals during those years. And a couple of years after that is when we sold our catering business and I found Ayurveda. But I was crashing, and I was just living in that sympathetic mode for a really long time, bucket overflowing, can't catch up, and I was actually doing yoga then. That saved me for sure. And I had my meditation practice and my breathing practice. But I find, and this is why I am so passionate about this work right now, because I would love to help women who are in their 40s, who feel like they're crashing, who are experiencing this now. Like, let's start working on this now so that when you get into your 50s and you get into menopause, you're not having the wheels fall off all the time. Yeah. And it's so important. And of course, I'm working on it now. I've been working on it for a while, and I can, just as I'm entering into my menopausal years, I'm feeling the effects of that long-term adrenal fatigue and a sympathetic lifestyle. And I do a lot of things right, but I also am not doing everything right. So, it's kind of back to that ebb and flow and finding that balance somehow, and just having grace and loving what you're doing and making choices to take care of yourself. I think all of those things are so important. That's why I wanted you to just kind of go into a little more detail about sympathetic and parasympathetic. And I love what you shared about the breath and that being your highest variability. So Wendy, could you pop in and talk about that a little bit, how you are incorporating breath into your movement and into your KALOS protocol? Because I feel like that is such, perhaps maybe the most important part of the KALOS class. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about that a little bit, about how and why you're incorporating the breath work into the movement?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, we talk about exercise, nutrition, sleep as, health pillars. Breath should be in there too. Yeah. If you haven't read the book Breathe by James Nestor, I would highly recommend it. It's a great place to start, just to truly understand the power and the importance of breathing. And I know just growing up as an exercise kind of avid exercise junkie, and they never cued breathing. And then when I discovered yoga, I was like, what is it about yoga? Well, I'll be truthful. I mean, it's just breathing. It's a way of calming the nervous system through breathing. Breath also gives you energy. So when you know more about how you're breathing and when you're breathing, not only when you're exercising, but in life in general, all the systems in your body are going to work so much more efficiently and effectively. And I oftentimes just say to people, your breathing is the fuel, it's gasoline for your whole body to work. If you don't think about it where you're sending it, you're doing a big disservice. Obviously, it's part of just natural. When we're sleeping, we're breathing, but body's always going to breathe no matter what. But to really tap into how you're feeling your breath move, like palpating your stomach, your heart. We do that a lot in KALOS, to let the 360 expansion of the torso mentally. Where is it going into the limbs? That can not only give the body that calming state of like, okay, I'm going to soothe out the system that's being heavily worked right now, tap to my inner being and feel the benefits of this space that I'm providing in my body, but also the benefits of when you actually feel like you're working into some sort of an anxiety mode before a speech or whatever, you can apply some of those things into your life because you know how to calm yourself. And so breath is, in my opinion, without a doubt, it goes right up there with nutrition, exercise, sleep, breath. It has to be there. The how and the why, did I answer both of those, do you think, or did I just tap on one?
I know you did, but will you explain a little bit, when you're creating a KALOS class, how do you, because you have a method. So will you talk about that just a little bit, about how you begin, and then how you don't have to go into a huge amount of detail, but just talk about how you start your class and how you incorporate it throughout.
Okay. Well, we always begin with a moment of silence and an opportunity to get grounded, whether you're standing, seated, or lying on your back. Allowing your body to feel safe and calm is number one, the best place to start any form of movement, in my opinion, because you're connecting internally. All aspects of the body systems are like, okay, we begin with 3 cleansing breaths where we just do inhales and exhales. Think about when you go to the doctor and he puts a stethoscope on you, just a way of cleansing, of clearing. And then we go into the Ujjayi breath, which is yoga breath, keeping your lips sealed. And we breathe through 10, 15 rounds of that, again, tuning into the body, calming the nervous system. Then throughout the class, I constantly cue breath work, because if you're holding your breath, sometimes you don't even know it. And breathing, a lot of us are holding our breath and don't even know it. And then you think about that. You're like, you're so contracted. nothing's going to move. So you got to, that breath should give some finesse to your movement. Nothing should feel real forced or angry, because the breathing is the tool that's just keeping it kind of smooth, soft, calm, and in control. When we elevate our heart rate, and that's going to, heart starts to beat, you can palpate it. I'll have you stand and feel it. Finding your grounding, tuning back into your breath. How are you recovering? That's not only physical, like the heart rate variability, you can, that you're coming off the climb is what I use and call it. But then you can apply that psychologically, mentally off your mat, where somebody pulls in front of you or cusses you out and you just want to kind of reach out and go, ugh. But instead it's like, I'm going to take a second, pause, and then respond. Mm-hmm. So that word breathing is used throughout all of KALOS classes, because I personally, I know, in yoga in general, that's where it's so rooted. It's that's when people say, oh, I'm more flexible, mobile, I feel better. Absolutely. But the real part, I think, is the breath work. That's what, and people just don't understand the benefits of what it's doing to your entire bodies, all your body systems, your organs, the benefits of it. So I'll leave the science part of that to Lindsey if she wants to go into that. But I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, definitely. Lindsey, do you want to talk any more about that with the breath? I love that you shared your, highest heart rate variability is during your breathing time.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I mean, I just want to point out that the lungs are a detox organ as well. So if we talk about detox organs, everybody, of course, thinks of the liver first, but we still have the kidneys, so we release toxins through our urine, our skin, bile, and our lungs. So every time we breathe out, we're actually expelling CO2 and toxins. So it's an important detox organ. So I don't think there's an accident that you feel better when you breathe, and your body's just a lot more supported that way.
So let's roll in a little bit into detoxing with food. Do you tell your patients to start with food?
Yeah. So actually, that's usually the most stressful part of my recommendations for people is changing diet. And I was one of those people too. It's not like I'm sitting here like everybody else has trouble. I was essentially eating every food group, processed food. I loved Cheez-Its. Like it wasn't like I wasn't eating well. And when the clinician I was seeing recommended that I do an elimination diet, I became extremely stressed out. And that was actually a lot more stressful than making any of the other lifestyle changes. But I will say that until I cleaned up my diet, I didn't actually get the sleep, the stress relief, the, just feeling more like in my body and calm, until I did all of the things. But I would do the other things first so you can actually handle some of the anxiety that comes along with changing your diet.
Yeah, I agree. Wendy, how about you? Do you eat so well most of the time, and I know, we're not like claiming to be perfect all the time, but what is your go-to?
Yeah, far from perfect, that's for sure. So, reflecting back on some of the comments I've made in this conversation here, I hope I never come across being kind of a know-it-all or dictating but I do think that educating yourself on nutrition is pretty invaluable. And what I see, I guess, I would say food. I would say start with food. And that does not seem like an alignment with what I teach with KALOS, because it's breathing first. But if you're looking at the masses, the people, again, who want to see changes, sometimes the food element to me is that tends to be the first thing that they're going to. So the more that they can understand nutrition and the impact it has on their bodies, then it can lead to better sleep. It can lead to better results, what you're feeling physically during movement. not to discount breathing, as I just said, the 4 pillars. That's so important. But if I was starting with somebody that I didn't know from scratch, and I asked, you know, I just sense that most people would want to know about nutrition. And I think what was the pivotal point in my life is when I really hunkered down and started educating myself about fueling my body and why was I feeling the way I was feeling, and understanding that. And a lot of people, you know, we're using these heart rate variability terms and we're kind of going into these topics. Some people don't even know what that is. And I have a darling sister-in-law who is and has tried many of diets and is always bringing them up to me. And a few years ago, I just said to her, you know, I love you, but I don't want to talk about diets anymore. I think that understand why you're doing what you're doing. Education, I guess, nutritional education would be number one. Okay. That's really, I said, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't. It's figuring out the food products that satisfy you, that keep your system healthy and strong, and then you can move into those next steps. One of my favorite quotes that I share sometimes is that nutrition is king and exercise is queen. Together you have a kingdom, and everything else is going to fall right into place. So that's my opinion today. I don't know. Ask me next week. I might have a different one, but that's where I'm.
Yeah. In Ayurveda, we are trying to increase good, healthy, strong digestion. And so, as I mentioned before, it's almost more about how and when we eat as just as important as what we're eating. So, for example, eating at lunchtime is when your digestion is the strongest. So making a point to sit down and have an actual lunch and nourish your body so you have more energy through the afternoon. Also, eating a little bit earlier, lighter dinner is also very good for your digestion, because as the evening goes on, your digestive fire is reducing. And when you go to sleep, you want your body to go out and do a cleanup job while you're sleeping. And if it's busy working on a big meal at your dinner time meal, then it doesn't have as much cleanup time. And then the other thing is having your morning time breakfast and having that be lighter again when your digestion is not 100% turned on yet. So those, to me, sometimes that's where I start when I'm trying to make changes and feel better again, is I start with a light breakfast, I make sure I have lunch, and I try to eat a lighter dinner. So for me, that's like step number one, because I know that I'm working with my digestion then at that phase. And then also, I think a lot of stuff that we do is we eat on the run all the time. Or we eat while we're on the computer. We eat while we're on the phone. We eat while we're watching a scary movie, or we're having a stressful conversation. Again, all of that pulls the energy out into the exterior of our body, so it's not as easy to focus on digesting the food that we're eating. So I just wanted to throw those things in there. How you're eating, trying to sit down when you eat. I share with you guys this funny, not funny, but this Ayurvedic proverb that says, when you eat standing up, death is looking over your shoulder. So they're pretty specific about that.
Yeah.
So sitting down to eat is really important. And we haven't talked about hydration at all, but that's also another part in there. But sitting down to eat, eating your heaviest meal when your digestion is the strongest during the middle of the day, so that you have energy for the afternoon, and then lighter dinner and lighter breakfast. And I feel like those things can get you off on a really good jump start as far as the detox process goes, because for many of us, that we're not doing any of those. We're not sitting down. We're not sometimes we're not even eating. We skip meals, and then we have a snack at 3 and then dinner with our family. And anyway, it's just kind of all over the place.
Yeah. What about, and so if you eat a lighter, earlier dinner, you're pretty much fasting for at least 12 to 14 hours, just naturally. And then I think it's really important when you do finally break that fast in the morning is to break it with protein and fiber instead of a carb. And that will kind of help support your, metabolism. I think there's a few kind of, easier fixes in terms of, I kind of get into like more of a personalized approach with everybody in terms of exactly what they should be eating and what, depending on their blood work, kind of what food groups I think, they would be best served avoiding for a little while. But one big one is conventional produce. So I think it's really important to be mindful of there's a website called ewg.org, and they list the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So if you're going to eat any of the produce on the Dirty Dozen list, it should be organic. Otherwise, you're essentially eating a pesticide called Roundup or glyphosate, and that is extremely toxic to your system and to your gut. And so you'll actually, it's a toxin itself that your body has to get rid of. And it also causes intestinal permeability, so it makes you absorb other toxins as well. So if you can do anything, I would say really try and invest in organic produce for those Dirty Dozen food lists. The Clean 15, you can kind of get away with, eating conventional produce there because it's not found in generally it has a skin on it or something like that. So I think that's an important one. A lot of people were, myself included, were raised cooking with corn oil or Crisco or canola oil, and those are extremely hard on the liver in terms of oxidative stress. So if you can do anything to decrease the oxidative burden on your liver, it would be getting rid of all of those. I mean, I would just say, don't even do it just when you're in a detox. Just get rid of those oils.
So which oils do you recommend focusing on?
So coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil. Those are three. I mean, those are the three I use in my home.
Perfect.
And then, and then along those same lines, most of our packaged foods or processed foods, have those types of oils. So you're also, not only getting the preservatives and artificial ingredients and, flavoring and whatever dyes are in there, but also you're getting those industrial seed oils that are highly processed and hard for your body to get rid of. So if you could make those, I would say those three choices, and I'm going to add one more. If you do eat animal protein, buying conventional animal protein that was raised on hormones, or conventional produce like corn, they're going to be more inflammatory to your system because they'll have more omega-6, lower omega-3, and more inflammatory in general in terms of their just the health of the muscle, because it's basically like they were eating unhealthy food, so their body isn't working as well either, so you're basically eating animal products that aren't healthy. So I would say try for the grass-fed beef, organic, free-range chicken too. If you can do all of those things just to start, that would be a great start.
I agree.
Yeah.
And one thing that I hate to say is that when eating out is usually hard to control because restaurants use a lot of seed oils, and maybe you mentioned that.
Yeah.
But eating out it's really hard to find a restaurant that is using organic produce and not using seed oils, and it's unfortunate. But that's one of my goals, is to help people figure out how to eat better at home and cook at home, even if they hate cooking, or maybe they don't hate it, they just don't want to try it, or they feel like they don't have the time. So one of my goals is to help people figure out how to do that, because eating at home is so rewarding, and you have control over all the nutrients that you're putting in your body. And once you get going, it can be really fun and very exciting, and it can be so simple. I mean, when I'm cooking for people, if I'm cooking for family dinners for 150 people, it has to be simple. The recipes have to be simple, and they taste delicious just because I don't put a lot of crap in it, and I'm using real whole foods and the good oils and the good meat and the good produce. And people like it because it's so different from carry out. are so different from anything else that they order from a restaurant or wherever. So I just wanted to mention that we got to get in our own kitchen
Yeah.
and figure that out. So, Wendy, I know that you say that you don't love cooking, but I know that you eat so well at home all the time and you're coming up with simple stuff constantly.
Well, I've learned a lot from you, Steph. Your shared recipes and stuff. I will say I am very comfortable eating the same thing day after day, but I try and mix it up because I know that's also not smart. You're for your digestion and just for your overall health, to mix up the proteins and vegetables and fruits that you're eating is important. So, no, I absolutely despise cooking more than anything, but I will grill. And Lindsey, I learned a lot from your talk 2 years ago. Not this past, well, last one I always learn stuff when you talk. But yeah, I've made a shift into what type of proteins I'm buying, and I will grill. I do a lot of meal prepping because I am guilty of eating on the run a lot, like if I'm driving to the studio. But what I always have in my fridge, and this is a really helpful thing for me, is just a grab and go. Something that has protein, a healthy fat, and fiber in it so that I can, if I do have to eat in the car, I'm not grabbing a box of something. I'm putting that healthier option in my mouth while I'm driving. Or if I can sit down for lunch, I do that. I think when you do your meals delivery stuff, it's like my dream come true. I tell you all the time, I wish I could roll you up and put you in my back pocket. But if you can have things on hand, if you're somebody who doesn't like to cook, Sunday nights is normally where I'll go and just turn on my grill. And I'll grill like 10 chicken breasts. I'll do sometimes steak, whatever, salmon. I'm still eating, although I probably should pitch it. We did salmon, I think, on Monday night. But I'll make that for breakfast in the morning with my eggs. I've figured out ways that have worked for me. And my kids, they're really used to mom's grilled food. We really have a lot of grilled food and a lot of vegetables. And I do like to make salads. And I love to use your recipes for dressings. And your...
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But
homemade dressings are important because when you buy dressings at most of them have safflower oil or something like that.
Yes.
What do you think about this high protein? And do we need higher protein as we age? Is that a true statement, do you think?
And you're directing this at me, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Lindsey,
good.
Sorry.
Good.
Yes.
I just want to make sure. So, well, in the context of detoxing, I really want to make sure you are eating enough fiber because fiber is actually the vehicle that the toxins leave our body in. So, I think the average American eats like 15 grams of fiber a day, and we really want to shoot for like 50, not 15. And so if we're eating enough fiber in the context of detox specifically, I think that we wouldn't even be able to eat the amount of protein that people are talking about. Now,
wait, say that. Will you say that again, Lindsey? Say that again.
I think if we're eating enough fiber, like 50 grams of fiber in a day, I don't think we physically would be able to eat the amount of protein that people are eating. Now, honestly, I think our bodies are so smart and so amazing that they will, as long as it's not super inflammatory or stressful or, like the other, involving all those foods that I was talking about before, I think the body will actually tend to adapt to whatever, if it's, essentially like clean enough and that kind of thing, and it's not putting too much stress. So I don't really get on any specific diet bandwagon. I just want the food that you eat to be healthy. And I want you to, especially in the context of detox, you've got to have enough fiber. You have to have your bowels moving once or twice a day. If you're going once a week, I know that you're reabsorbing a lot of these toxins back into your system. Mm-hmm. And that includes, like when we're talking about perimenopause, that includes those hormones that we're supposed to be detoxing as well. So then you actually don't have, a great regulation of your sex hormones because you're absorbing all these sex hormones that were supposed to be, tagged and released through your stool. So,
wow.
So I think that if you can get that amount of fiber in, and stay hydrated, like you said, eat clean protein. I think that's really important. And then there are a lot of great supplements that have amino acids that can support all of the things that we were talking about in terms of building muscle and keeping your structural integrity intact as you age. So I love an amino acid supplement too, if you're trying to take one after exercise or something like that.
What do you think about fiber supplements? There's a lot of people promoting those now. And well, of course, from the Ayurvedic perspective, of course, we want it to be real food instead of a powder. But what do you think about those? Is that a good way to step up your fiber intake if you're not used to eating that many vegetables?
Yeah, so soluble fiber, so, you put it in water, you can see through it, drink that. That will actually nourish your microbiome. And so there's a lot of different soluble fibers that work well. I will say, though, you have to build up with that. And you cannot if you start eating 3 grams of soluble fiber 3 times a day, you're going to end up in the ER thinking you have appendicitis or something. Like you can have a lot of GI discomfort. So you have to build up with that. And then the other thing is, if you are having a harder time tolerating that, I would say definitely work with a practitioner to see if you have something underlying that, like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or something like that, to where you're not tolerating that fiber. Well, I would say in terms of, going through these are all great kind of general, like everyday detox strategies. If you are interested in doing a detox, I would say definitely try and work with a practitioner or group, have some support along the way, because there are some specific nutrients and herbs and binders and things that can just work wonders on getting some of these toxins out of your body. And it's way too in-depth to go touch on each one of these right now. But honestly, once or twice a year, focusing on trying to detox, really medically detoxing your body of all of these toxins to, set the stage for kind of longevity and your cells just working really optimally. Your body just will feel better as you age. So.
Well, and if I was going to say one thing, whether you choose to walk or do Pilates or yoga or go for your run, holding yourself accountable and being consistent with movement is critical. Detoxing or not, book it in your calendar as you would a doctor's appointment. And if you're somebody who doesn't do anything right now, start small. Do it once a week. Don't set yourself up to feel frustrated or defeated. And if you are doing a detox and you're applying some of the elimination things, be smart about how you're moving too. Don't overdo it.
So thank you guys so much for taking the time to do this today and sharing your knowledge and your beauty and your smarts and your stories, and because we really are all in this together. So as we close it up here, so fun. As we close it up, will you just quickly say the best way to find you guys? And I can put this in our notes as well, but go ahead and tell us, Wendy, where to find you and your classes and how to get in touch with you.
Websites, kalosexperience.com, and Instagram is KALOS Experience. And those are the best ways to find classes and more information about the studio and the class offerings that we have. So, and
perfect.
Experience is, KALOS Experience, all one word on that website and on Instagram.
Perfect. Okay, Linz, how about you?
Okay, my website is rcfunctionalmd.com, and my Instagram, which is a baby right now, doesn't even have one post, but it's coming soon.
It's coming.
Is rcfunctionalmd. So look for that for some tips and you can schedule an appointment with me. You can do, everybody who comes to see me starts with a deep dive into their medical history, and we review blood work and come up with a health plan. And then I also have a membership that's a year long, and we work on all of the things that we've talked about, and a number of other, any other health complaint or symptom that a patient's coming in with.
Perfect. Lindsey, are you still doing a call where someone can set up time to have a free call with you so they can kind of find out if this would be a good fit?
Absolutely. So on my website, you can click on schedule a discovery call, and there'll be a number of times that you can just set up a call with me, and I'll give you a call, and we'll talk about what I do and how I can help you. And right now I'm not doing virtual, so it will be in the Kansas City area.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And Wendy, you have specials on KALOS classes all the time, so people can pop in and try it. They can try a new student, kind of a new student special, or like I feel like you have specials coming up all the time, so it's super easy to get in and try a class and get a good deal.
Yes, and there's always a 3 for $30 new student special, and I roll in and out with different class pack specials, and new schedule is going to be coming out in January, so excited about that. And
Good. Well, and I'm Steph Mohr. I'm gowithsteph.com. Same Go With Steph on Instagram. And I also I love to talk health and wellness and find out what your people are working on with their wellness goals and what they're trying to eat. And so I also offer a free call if anybody would like to chat with me too. And so fun, you guys. Thank you so much. And I so appreciate you taking the time, and we'll share this with our communities, and it'll be really great.
Thanks, Steph.
Thank you so much.